Take a sec. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole for March 30th, 2020. I'm just going to read off a prepared statement here after we acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional unceded territories of the Comox First Nation. Some of us are closer than others, but we are all here together. Changes to the council meetings due to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Due to the coronavirus COVID-19 emergency, the City of Courtenay, with the authority of Ministerial Order number M083, Local Government Meetings and Bylaw Process COVID-19, has implemented changes to its open council meetings. In the interest of public health and safety, public in-person attendance and council meetings will be prohibited until further notice. Council meetings will be presided in person by the mayor or acting mayor, with electronic participation by members of council and staff. Meetings are available for viewing via live web streaming or video recording on the City of Courtenay website. In extraordinary times, I want to thank everybody for joining me. I do just want to remind all those that are participating that if you're not talking, to mute your microphones just so that we don't get too much ambient noise. I think with that, we can start to get into it. We do have a staff report. And who would like to move that?
I'll move that, Mayor. I'd like to move that the correspondence dated March 9th, 2020 from the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, requesting a one-year lease renewal of the Connect Warming Center and continued in-kind support from the City of Courtenay be received for information. And that the terms and renewal of the January 6, 2020 Connect Warming Center license to occupy agreement between the Comox Valley Transition Society licensee and the City of Courtenay license for use of the north side of the city-owned premises located at 685 Cliff Avenue with a legal description of PID 006-102-930 Lot 3, Section 61, Comox District Plan VIP 3817. Be temporarily extended until the 30th day of June 2020 pursuant to Section 3 of the agreement. That staff provide public notice to satisfy the statutory advertising requirements for the provision of assistance and disposition of city lands per Section 24 of the Community Charter. That the mayor and corporate officer be licensed to execute all documentation relating to the interim extended terms and renewal of the license to occupy agreement, and that the requests made by the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness for a one-year lease with option for renewal and continued in-kind support from the city be considered at a future council meeting as deemed appropriate by staff.
Second.
All right, thanks very much. This is where we're going to maybe pass it over to staff if they have any comments. Speaking to that, John, if you can weigh in on this, John Ward.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to add, just routine housekeeping, just to keep the Connect Warming Center open into 3 more months. Thank you.
All right. And are there any questions regarding this? I do not see any hands up. Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank city staff for working with the agencies involved. I think we found in the first few months of the center being in place that it's worked very well. It's relieved some of the pressure on the downtown businesses and the library. And it's also provided an invaluable service for the people who are using it, which of course has become even more significant given the circumstances that we're currently under. So I'd just like to once again thank staff for all the work they've done to make this happen.
Thanks very much. Seeing no further hands, all those in favor? And I'll go through the list so that we can make sure we get everybody on record. Councillor Hillian,
In favor.
Councillor Fraiche,
In favor.
Councillor Morin,
In favor.
Councillor Cole Hamilton,
In favor.
Councillor Theos,
In favor also.
Councillor McCullum,
In favor.
and I think Councillor Cole Hamilton.
I'm in favor, absolutely.
And did I get everybody? Councillor Morin, did I get you as well?
Yes, in favor.
Excellent. So, and myself in favor as well. That's unanimous. Thanks, everybody. And we've gotten through our first item on our agenda. So kudos to everybody for working hard on this. So on to the second item on our agenda. Councillor McCullum.
I'll move receipt of a verbal update regarding public washrooms and shower facilities for vulnerable citizens around the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic.
Second that.
Second that, but I was muted, but still second.
That's all good. That's all good. By the time we're done this meeting, we'll be rock stars at muting and unmuting ourselves. And I'll pass it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's going to be two staff speaking to this. First, I'll start with Trevor Kushner on the public washrooms.
Thank you through the CEO to Mayor and Council. So one of the asks that came about as last week's council update was a possibility or potential for extended hours at the washrooms. The washrooms, of course, just a reminder, are the Sid Plaza and the Sims Park washrooms. Right now, they're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Council had asked that we look at the possibility of extending those hours to 11 p.m. We can in fact do that. The cost to do that will be $150 per day per site, so a total aggregate of $300 a day. So that can be accomplished if that's council's will. The second part of that ask was to see if any of those costs could be reimbursed through EMBC. We think there is a potential for that, and Jennifer Nelson has contacted EMBC or is doing so today, and we should have that answer back shortly, hopefully by the end of this week. So if it's council's will, I can certainly request the security and the custodians to open those washrooms to 11 p.m.
Okay, thanks very much. And you said another step?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So we also have, speaking to the shower facilities, Dave Snyder, our Director of Recreation and Cultural Service.
Thank you. Through the CEO to Mayor and Council. Staff have been working with the Transition Society to create an opportunity for shower facilities to be available to folks in need during this time. The Transition Society is working on behalf of the Coalition to End Homelessness. What we've worked out is that 2 facilities would be available at the south or west end of the Lewis Center. They would be available from the outside of the building. There's men's and women's access points on the outside of the building there. The Transition Society is looking to man it through the creation of a tent on the outside with a table there to provide an attendant. And the attendant would perform these functions: to connect with users, to assess their needs as appropriate, to distribute sanitation items like soap, shampoo, towels, etc., to ensure that only one person at a time is admitted into the washrooms, that is one area at a time, to ensure that time limits are established, respected, and then to check in on patrons if anyone is late or in danger, to ensure protocols are in place for patrons if they need medical attention, to ensure that patrons in line are 2 meters apart, to remove any items left by attendees at the end of the shower usage, and then to provide incident reporting to the manager of facility operations, and in general to provide safety protocols for those using the washrooms. The washrooms will be open from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Monday to Friday is the plan at this point. And our city staff will clean the washrooms, and their intent is to start as of Wednesday.
Excellent. Thanks for the reports. And we do have a couple of questions. Councillor McCullum.
Yeah, thank you. My sound when Director Kushner is speaking wasn't completely clear, so I just wanted him to clarify. Was it $300 per day in addition to what our current costs are for extending the washroom hours?
Yes, that's correct. That would raise the total from about $700 a day to $1,000 a day. So 300 extra for both.
And we wouldn't be shifting the hours, but extending them further into the evening. Could you remind me what the new hours for the washroom facilities would be?
Right now, we're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Part of the data has shown that they're actually getting used quite a bit in the morning. So we just added an extra 4 hours onto the end of the day. So it'd be 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Right. And Councillor Morin.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, sorry, I was having a little bit of trouble hearing as well. So I had the same questions as Councillor McCollum, and then I wondered, you did say that we would be able to apply for and recoup some costs then through the province. Is that correct?
So to clarify, we think it's recoverable. We are applying by either the end of today or tomorrow, but we'll have an answer by the end of this week.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say again, thank you so much to staff for getting on these items so quickly. I know that the medical health officers across the province are recommending these services to our folks who are not housed, and to help mitigate this health crisis. So I would hope that that the province will step up, because I think it is a necessary service to our community. And again, thank you very much.
Excellent. And that has generated some more questions. Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for staff for finding a way to make this the service available, both extending the bathroom usage into the evening and the showers. I just wanted to get a sense that the bathrooms are 7 to 11 now, and that's 7 days a week. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I think I heard it was a bit hard to hear. For the showers, was that 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And is that 7 days a week as well?
Yeah, at this point, it's Monday to Friday. That's what the Transition Society has requested.
Okay, Monday to Friday, 7:30 to 11:30 then, the 4 hours.
That's
okay.
right, 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
All right, thanks very much, Dave. That's fantastic. Okay.
And maybe Councillor Cole-Hamilton, when Mr. Kushner is talking, is it harder to hear him even now?
Hard to say. He seems very quiet right now.
How's this for a test?
That sounds clear as a bell. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, moving right along, Councillor Fraiche.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mayor. And I was just wondering, is this in the agenda, these numbers? Or maybe I'm missing that information.
I believe this is a verbal update.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm just going to have to ask you to go over those again. We're looking at extending our hours, and we're also looking at opening a second facility. Can you just go over those again for me, please?
Sure. So for clarity, we are currently operating the Plaza washrooms and Sims Park washrooms from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, 7 days a week. The cost of that is approximately $700 a day. The additional hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily, 7 days a week, is approximately $300 per day for both sites. So for a total of $1,000 a day for both those facilities to be open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I'll let Mr. Snyder talk about the showers.
Thank you.
Yeah, the shower facilities would be open from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Monday to Friday at the southwest corner of the Lewis Center.
And the cost on that? That's included in the 300 a day?
Actually, we didn't calculate costs associated with this, in that it's run by the Transition Society. And there would be some cleaning costs, but the facility would normally be open, and those facilities would be cleaned regularly. So we could calculate that if we need to.
And so just to summarize, a bit of mental math, but we're looking at about $10,000 a month. Is that right? Or $9,000, $10,000 a month?
I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
At $1,000 a day,
30,000 a month. 30,000. All right. But the additional is 10, I guess, is what I meant. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. And Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that we're doing this. It's important, and that we're going to try and recover the cost from the province. I wonder if we can potentially review this in the weeks to come, because if in fact we can't get cost recovery from the province, $30,000 a month is a significant cost, and we don't know how long this situation is going to go on. So I wonder if staff have any consideration for whether there might be alternatives that we can look at if we end up in a prolonged situation. Hello?
Mayor, I think you're muted.
I did. I was muting myself using that fancy new spacebar trick. We have Councillor Theos up next.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't hear the answer for Doug's question.
No, I didn't either.
Yep.
Turn this over to Trevor if there's any detailed technical questions, I guess. But we've discussed it at a senior staff level, and we're looking at different options for reducing the costs, which are primarily around security. And so we're, of course, as you add longer hours to the operation of those two washrooms, that really is what the major cost is. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you.
All right. And Councillor Fraiche, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I was going to ask about, you said there'd be someone stationed at these spots. I believe you did mention that. Is there going to be some sort of record keeping so that we can reassess this? Did you mention that?
So when this pandemic was starting, I guess you could say, we took a look at tracking costs. We're not sure what will be covered. At that time, we weren't sure anyway, and we're getting more clarity about that. But yes, we are tracking all the costs that relate to what we see as responses to the pandemic.
And so the recording I was talking about was the usage of the washrooms that we're going to open up, recording how many people use them and what hours and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we've tasked the security group with taking that data. So they take who's using the washrooms, what time they're using it, whether it's male or female. So we have all that data. Right now, I can say that the data has been fairly flat and consistent. Pardon me, I should say there's been a marginal uptake in the usage of the facilities, but we get that data at the end of the week. So by Friday, I'll have all the new numbers. And by Friday, we should also have an idea if these costs are recoverable or not.
Thanks very much.
All right, and Councillor Morin.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just in addition to what Councillor Hilliam was talking about in terms of the long-term plan, just thinking about our discussions around the possibility of the Portland Loo, and I believe they're about $140,000, and I'm just wondering if we're still, I know, we're focused on we've got kind of a skeleton crew right now in terms of what staff is doing, but I just wondered if that can occur alongside what we're doing in terms of investigating the Portland Loo, just because that would be about 3 months worth of what we're doing in terms of making that purchase, which would go well beyond this COVID crisis. Thanks.
All right. I think that's something for future discussion. There's a lot more to it right now, and with the fewer staff, we're not in a position right now to respond to that.
Okay, and Councillor Theos.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate the questions from Doug there and Wendy. Moving forward, it would be nice to see what kind of numbers the usage is and go from there. My question is in regards to our staff that are cleaning the facilities. Is there a particular protocol that they've gone through in order to keep their safety and security? Thank you very kindly.
Absolutely. I know this is part of the things we discussed last week, but I'll pass it over to staff to clarify.
Thanks, Mayor. And I in turn will turn this over to Dave Snyder.
Thank you through the CAO. We do have substantial protocols that we've worked through with our custodial staff. They are using a lot of personal protective equipment. They have particular protocols in terms of the types of cleaners they're using. And then they also have protocols in terms of how to take off their personal protective equipment. One reality that council should be aware of with each of these scenarios is the PPE, we refer to them personal protective equipment. The PPE requirements are substantially greater than normal and supply is limited. So we do need to be careful as we increase service levels and we have limited PPEs. I know that the medical community is also vying for the same sort of equipment. And so we want to be cautious to not utilize more or create more opportunities than we have PPEs to move forward with.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
All right. So I think that's been a pretty healthy discussion. So I'll just poll council again. Actually, that was just a verbal update. So I'll poll council for that verbal update. Councillor Hillian?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Theos?
Support.
Councillor Morin?
Yes, support.
Councillor Cole-Hamilton?
In favor.
Councillor Fraiche?
In favor.
Councillor McCollum?
In favor.
And I believe that might be everybody. Did I get everyone?
And that was on receipt?
Yeah. Councillor Cole-Hamilton, did I get you as well?
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm in favor.
So that's on receipt. I've got everybody and I'm in favor as well. That's just on receipt. Having said that, does anybody have a motion that they'd like to make in regards to the information we just received?
I'll move that we support staff to move ahead with the extended hours for washrooms and the provision of shower facilities as reported.
Okay, that's Councillor Hillian and a seconder.
Second.
Excellent. Who was the seconder?
It was Councillor McCollum.
Thank you. All right. Any questions regarding the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, and I'm going to go back through. Councillor Hillian?
In favor.
Councillor Theos?
In favor.
Councillor Morin?
In favor.
Councillor Fraiche?
In favor.
Councillor McCollum?
In favor.
Councillor Cole-Hamilton?
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. That's unanimous. So, all right. And I think that's pretty clear. I'm not seeing anybody wanting any extra clarity on that. Anything else before we move on to the next item? Seeing none. Under new business, we should be voting, I believe, to receive this under new business. But
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the correspondence dated March 23rd, 2020 from the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness requesting emergency support for frontline agencies responding to the needs of citizens who are homeless, precariously housed, or otherwise marginalized during the COVID-19 pandemic be received for information, and that council immediately approves the release of $17,500 in emergency COVID-19 funding for disbursement to support agencies by the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness, identified in their March 23rd, 2020 letter in the allocated amounts as follows: Comox Valley Caravan, $5,000, Lush Valley Food Action Society, $5,000, Comox Valley Food Bank, $5,000, Comox Valley Transition Society, $2,500, and that the $17,500 contribution to the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness's COVID-19 emergency pandemic response be funded from provincial gaming funds.
I'll second that.
excellent. And are there any comments or questions regarding that? Seeing none, I do just want to take a moment to thank council and staff and really the Coalition to End Homelessness for working together, articulating what the needs are. Obviously, we're in an emergency situation where things aren't how they normally are. But I think everybody came together to make sure that we are looking after our most vulnerable people in our community. So I just want to thank everybody for that. Having said that, now Councillor Hillian would like to say something as well.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just aware that given the unusual circumstances and the fact that the meeting is being streamed, there may be more people tuning in than usual. And I wonder if it would be appropriate for someone from staff or someone on council to speak to the specifics of these requests and the actual services that we're helping to provide.
You want me to speak to it? Or? Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it. I think, you know, I was in fairly constant contact over the last couple of weeks with Andrea Capelli and Heather Ney. And, you know, we knew that there was a need, but we needed that need to be really articulated. And, you know, as soon as they basically were able to give us numbers on how we could support the member agencies of the Coalition to End Homelessness, there's 22 members, but really these four kind of jumped up as things that needed immediate funding really to deal with COVID-19. These aren't regular funding costs just for regular day-to-day things. This was really things to deal with new stuff. So, oh, thanks. And, you know, if we look at each one in particular, for the caravan, it was for purchasing medical supplies, sleeping bags, those kinds of things, to be able to respond as quickly as possible. Lush Valley Food Action Society for $5,000, again, getting their emergency food access program, working IT sanitization, and getting gas for their delivery trucks. Again, their model having to shift and adapt because of COVID-19. Comox Valley Food Bank, as we all know, had to close down for a period of time. I believe they opened up today, which I think is a relief to many, but basically making sure that they've got money to purchase food because of course donations have declined due to people not venturing out to drop off donations, which is not necessarily a bad thing that people aren't going out, but we want to make sure that they have that funding to purchase food and keep stuff on food on the shelves. Comox Valley Transition Society, about $2,500 for them. And that's going to the Connect Warming Center's COVID-19 response. Again, increased staffing hours, food, living supports, sanitation supplies, and trying to assist those that are experiencing homelessness. And I think when we got this letter and in my discussions with them, again, when we first started talking, the food bank was kind of rocking along and then they had to close down. And so one of the things that we sort of went on, I think a great deal of trust that, you know, these organizations and the Homelessness Coalition in general has built up a real good amount of trust that we know if we give them these funds, and for some reason, one of these organizations that's been identified can't utilize those funds to the full extent that they will find the best way to spend these funds. So I think that is a great feeling of reassurance that I have. And again, this is sort of a stopgap while they're waiting for, you know, the provincial and federal funding, which has been announced in a lot of cases, but again, to this point, hasn't necessarily arrived. So we really wanted to make sure that we're able to support those folks as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to comment that I think our citizens can be proud that their city's stepping up in this way. These are relatively small amounts, but they're very helpful in short term. And we know these agencies are doing stellar work with some of our more underprivileged community members. And I just want to heartily endorse this and thank staff for their part in making it happen.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian. And Councillor Theos, you had a comment as well?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. I'm believing that that this funding, being an emergency funding, as the Mayor just explained, should also be sent to the province as reimbursement potential because it is related to the COVID-19. So I think that that should be something we should apply for also, is the funding to reimburse us for this, because reality is our, we're talking about using the gaming funds, but the gaming funds this year as a result of COVID-19 also will be reduced to what degree, I'm not sure, but certainly reduced in the coming years. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I think that's the plan, but I'll let Mr. Allen respond.
Thanks, Mayor. Good question. It gives us an opportunity to follow up on what we've done so far. Once the EOC was regional EOC was stood up, when we received our task numbers, this was actually the very first request that we put into the PREOC, the Emergency Management BC PREOC. We are waiting confirmation as to whether these costs will be covered. We expect it this week. And again, just to remind all of council and those that may be watching, we are tracking all costs that we think potentially could fall under the recoverable costs for this pandemic. And we'll keep you apprised of the situation as things unfold.
Thank you very much, CAO. We really appreciate that.
Excellent. I think with that, we'll take the vote. And we'll start with Councillor Morin.
Definitely in favor. Thank you.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
In favor.
Councillor Fraiche.
In favor, thanks.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Cole Hamilton.
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. So another unanimous decision. Thanks very much, Council, for that. If there's no further questions or comments, we'll move on to item number 2. Councillor Fraiche.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll move that the correspondence dated March 25th, 2020 from Lush Valley Food Action Society requesting council support to provide a facility with commercial kitchen space to operate an emergency food program during the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic be received for information. And furthermore, that council directs staff to work with Lush Valley to immediately investigate suitable options for the temporary use of a city-owned facility with adequate kitchen space and provide urgently needed food programs to vulnerable citizens during the coronavirus emergency.
Seconded.
Excellent. That's been first and seconded, and we'll pass it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will in turn turn this over to Dave Snyder, who can speak to the progress on this.
Dave Snyder, you may need to unmute yourself.
Just hit spacebar.
Well, the space bar wasn't working, I'm afraid. Let me start again. Thank you through the CAO to Mayor and Council. We have been working with Lush Valley Food Action Society over the last 5 days or so to pull these items together. Lush Valley was asking for 2 facilities, one for use for a hamper program to deliver food to those in need, and one for a hot meal program where a kitchen was needed. We have satisfied the hamper program needs in conjunction with the CVRD to provide a facility that's very open for them to do sorting and still be able to keep social distancing. The hot meal program has been satisfied at a city facility where a kitchen facility is available. Lush asks specifically that these facilities not be named. They are asking that we not advertise them so that for two main reasons. One is for the safety of volunteers, and another is patrons, so that patrons don't come to these facilities and congregate looking for opportunities. So we haven't named them publicly where they are. The project is going very well, and Lush is aiming at a Wednesday opening for the kitchen to start producing food. I'll take any questions.
Excellent. I did go through and mute a few folks just because we did hear some feedback sounds. So, but if you put your hand up, I will unmute you. So first we have Councillor Morin.
Great, thank you so much, Mayor. I know this is something that I kind of sprung on folks last week, and I'm again just really impressed with the how quickly this was pulled together. I'm also just really want to do a shout out to Lush and the Food Policy Council in terms of, it's been quite a feat of getting food out to people really quickly. There's so much that they've been doing that behind the scenes that most people don't even know about. They're getting food out to social housing as well as individuals, and they're going to be looking at trying to get food to kids in school because those services are gone now. So there's just a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and of course there'll be a larger group of people now who will have food security as an issue because so many people are out of work and businesses have had to close down. So I just really appreciate all the work that's been done, and so happy that staff has worked so hard on this, and also kudos to Lush and the Food Policy Council for all the work that they've done. So thanks so much.
Excellent, thanks very much. I don't see any further hands up right now. So I'll basically, having said that, poll council for a vote. I'll start with Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
In support.
Councillor Fraiche.
In favor, thanks.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
And Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
I think I've got them all there. Did I miss anyone? I think we're good. I'm in favor as well. Another unanimous decision. Thanks very much. Next, we have item number 3, the modified council meeting schedule. Councillor Morin.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I'll move that based on the recommendations made by provincial and federal health authorities to maintain physical distancing and restrict public gatherings as prevention measures related to the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19, and as administered by extraordinary powers declared under the provincial state of emergency through the Emergency Program Act, that council cancel the following meetings: April 27th, Committee of the Whole, May 25th, Committee of the Whole. And it is a fairly long motion, so I'll just try to condense it a bit. That we continue with the regular schedule, that we conduct electronic meetings as provided in the community charter, that meetings be posted and made available live streaming as tonight, that in recognition of limited staff capacity, that agendas may be adjusted but not limited to priority, statutory, essential, or critical functions. Meeting dates and times be temporarily amended, and this is an important note, to commence at 1 p.m. every Monday of the month, except when the said Monday is a holiday, in which case council may meet at the regularly scheduled time the next day following. Resolves to meet on subsequent days if required. The meetings may be cancelled if there's no matters for council to resolve. Notice of cancellation provided under section 17 of the council procedure bylaw. Council meetings under the modified schedule be limited to a maximum of 2 hours, and that the modified council meeting schedule for the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic be effective immediately, may be subject to change, and this is under the authority of the provincial or federal governments through the Emergency Program Act or Emergencies Act Canada, until such time as the provincial state of emergency for the pandemic has been lifted, and local governments may resume regular operations or by resolution of council.
Second.
Excellent. Good oratory there. Thanks so much for reading that all out, Councillor Morin. Do we have any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, I think this is pretty much just a housekeeping thing. Again, as we started the meeting off with, we are in unprecedented times, and I think we're doing pretty good under the circumstances. Right now we do have Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. You were perhaps going to go on to say this, but I think that it's significant that we've agreed to meet on a weekly basis. We've changed the time. We're mindful of the fact that under such quickly changing circumstances that issues may come up that need to be managed, that we may also have the regular business of the city to deal with. But we're also mindful that we don't want to stress the capacity of our staff during this unprecedented time. So the different procedures are to enable us both to meet electronically and to address the issues as they arise. So thank you very much to staff for organizing this in response to some council suggestions.
Excellent. And having said that, I'm going to go back through and get everybody to vote on the motion. And we'll start with, actually, Councillor McCullum, you have your hand up. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just as we're just about to vote, it occurred to me that I have a question that's relevant to the topic that we're on, although I am in favor of what we're suggesting, of course. I'm curious if any thought's been given at this point as to whether or not we could include delegations in these meetings with the format that we're using now. It's a pretty important way for a community to engage with council, and seeing as we don't really know how long we're going to be using this format for, I'm just curious if staff want to comment on whether or not that's something that we could also include, maybe not immediately, but in the coming weeks.
Thanks, through the mayor. I don't know, we haven't really gotten into that discussion in a concerted way with staff. But certainly we will review that, and then maybe at the next council meeting we can report out on that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there, from a technical perspective, it's probably very doable. And in fact, staff have been messaging through the magic of Zoom here to say that there is a possibility. But I think, yeah, having a fulsome or as fulsome as possible under the circumstances, what the logistics around that might be, which might mean that we have delegations as separate events, or they may be part of this. But I think there's a few things. Again, I think our meeting has gone quite well today. So we may be fairly confident at this point that we can almost do anything, but we'll look forward to staff reporting back out maybe in the next week or so around how that might look. I know personally I've canceled any of the Meet the Mayor events, but am now at the point where this Wednesday I think I'll be getting back into that, but doing it via Zoom. So I think there's some options certainly there, but just making sure we understand all the logistics. Mr. Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, and I think I'm perhaps a little less concerned about the technical aspects of this than the administrative aspects. And so part of that discussion is going to be what our staff capacity is, and then also what is the focus or the priority setting related to the city's business in these times. And so I think we'll have that discussion over the next few days, and then we'll be able to report back at the next council meeting.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much. I don't see any other hands, so we'll just go through, and I'll start with Councillor Fraiche.
Yes, in favor, thanks.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCullum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
Sorry, I was muted. In favor.
Councillor Cole Hamilton.
In favor.
And I don't see a Councillor Theos anymore. Councillor Theos, are you still with us? We may have lost Councillor Theos. So we'll have to roll with the punches, I think, under the circumstances. And I'll vote in favor. And I think that does put us at a majority, and we'll go from there. Next on the agenda was actually adjournment, but if council would indulge me, I would like to bring up one thing that actually Councillor Moran brought to our attention earlier today, and that is the 2 questions that we're supposed to bring to Dr. Enns tomorrow for our conference call. And so staff have an idea for at least one of those questions. And so I thought maybe we could start a bit of a dialogue on that just for the next maybe a few minutes, see if we can't hash out a couple of questions that we can email off before the end of the day. With that, I'll pass it over to Mr. Allen. And
thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this is, I haven't had a chance to really engage with senior staff on this one, but I just know that some of the recent sort of unfolding orders that have come from the province relate to bylaw enforcement or bylaw education. We're trying to get clarity on exactly what the province is looking to get in terms of support for either enforcement. And right now, enforcement's not on the, that's not a directive or an order at this stage, although that may come at some point in time. But just the whole issue of education on physical distancing, gatherings, you know, people congregating in parks, that sort of thing. So I can see that asking a question about when and when we get clarity from either the provincial medical health officer or the health authorities or the province in some fashion would be quite helpful.
So thanks very much. And I think, you know, I think it was spelled out that there is potentially some funding coming for that as well. But you know, as we start to ratchet up the messaging, I know over the weekend I got messages from people concerned about even local businesses, and again, you know, making sure that we're set up properly for that. Mr. Allen?
Thanks. I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things we've been working on today in particular is putting together some speaking notes for frontline staff in particular, of course, their managers and ultimately directors, but also for council members because of the questions that are coming in and we anticipate will continue to come in. So we've been working together on communications for speaking notes for that, and we anticipate that if they're not out yet, they will be shortly. And what we can do is tailor those a little bit to the audience, and in this case, obviously, the frontline staff have their own particular needs, and then council will have its own as well. So we'll do our best to adapt the message or the speaking notes to those needs.
All right. And does somebody want to speak to that suggestion in particular, Councillor Hillian?
Well, 2 things, Mr. Mayor. I just first wanted to clarify, since this wasn't on the agenda, that what we're talking about is the elected officials will have an opportunity, I believe, on a weekly basis for a short phone conversation with Dr. Enns, our medical health officer. And so that's what we're canvassing potential questions for. For me, there's 2 areas that I believe are still creating some confusion amongst the public that it may be helpful to get clear communication from our medical health officer. One is the question of why results of infections and cases are not given for specific communities. I mean, I know the answer, but I think it's something that has still created some puzzlement in some areas of the public. The second is the directive that crowds be of no more than 50 be permitted. And I think, again, this has created some confusion. And my understanding is that crowds bigger than your own family aren't permitted. So I think it's asking for some clarification of those 2 areas be made for the general public. That would be my suggestion.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Hillian. And yeah, and I mean, one other issue that has been discussed for the last couple of weeks, again, kind of going back to the Homelessness Coalition, is the use of hotels or other facilities for people that have need to be isolated. And yeah, Mr. Allen, maybe if you'd like to.
Sure. This is just for information, really. The regional EOC has been, the planning section has been working on all of that for about the last 5 or so days. And so part of that is identifying what's out there, and then working on sort of the logistics and the process. And again, that's back to the guidance, the orders or directions specifically from the health authority or the medical health officer. So just for your awareness, I guess, that this is on the radar, has been for some time, and we're actioning and preparing for that.
And if I might just add, Mr. Mayor, I do think the issue raised by staff of the bylaw enforcement issue is very primary in people's minds. Who do they report to? How do they respond if in fact they're concerned about groups of people not practicing physical distancing?
Absolutely, and as I said, I've been getting messages already over the last, well, pretty much since Friday, when I think the announcement was on Thursday, maybe afternoon, and pretty much since Friday, I've been getting comments and concerns from people, which I've been passing along to staff. Councillor Morin.
Great, thank you. Yes, my question was also around the limit of 50 people in gatherings. I'm getting a lot of questions and confusion around that. How you could technically have a wedding of up to 50 people gathering, and it's highly doubtful that social distancing would be happening during an event like that. I'm also seeing several children's events still going on, and Easter holidays are coming up, and I've been getting a lot of concerns about these public events that are still going on with, numerous people who, again, children are not going to be able to keep a meter away from each other at an Easter egg hunt. So I think that, it's a confusing message, and I kind of wish the province would bring those numbers down, because I don't see how the spread can be contained if you're allowing up to 50 people and not being able to manage that. So maybe just some clarification on that, and yeah, just how to manage that, I guess. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one. And I think that the messaging from the city, and I can say from my perspective, the only message I've given since basically March 16th is, getting down to that, is it essential, and is it, and if it isn't, then basically staying home. And I think that, what I'm hearing in terms of essential, and that 50 people tends to be, that's large grocery stores, that type of stuff. It's not meant to be people meeting up at the beach or other venues. It really is only for those types of places. And I think I read somewhere where there's an actual recommendation around square footage. So depending on the size of the facility, and in this case, we're really just talking grocery stores, that really limits how many people are able to go there. And I think, again, when I look at sort of the complaints that I've heard coming my way, they do tend to be, funny enough, generally smaller places where I think there may be a capacity issue, where they might not have a health and safety officer, they might not have the protocols in place. And so it really is about how do we support those folks from an education standpoint, and so that they're keeping their employees safe first of all, and then through that keeping their customers safe. So and next we have Councillor Theos.
Thanks, Mayor. My question would be in regards to the testing and offering information on where to get tested and who's eligible to get tested. I think that has to be a little bit of a stronger message to the public.
All right. Excellent. And next we have Councillor Fraiche.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I just wanted to make a comment about the question on gatherings and our role in the municipality. I think that's a good one to ask because it is a little unclear at this point. From what I understand, it would be okay to meet with people as long as you don't come within a certain distance. But like we're hearing, that could be challenging if it's a kid's birthday party, of course, would be nearly impossible, or a wedding. You know, if they don't live in the same place, can they kiss at the end, and these sorts of questions. But on a serious note, it's a great question to ask. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the examples that came my way as well is a lot of folks from Courtenay that are heading to the trails in Cumberland. They've closed their parking lots, but it also results in a lot of people parking and kind of walking around Cumberland in a way that may not be as safe as it might otherwise be. So looking at, again, is it an essential trip? And really people knowing that it's up to them, because if you show up to a place and there's already a lot of cars there, you know, it's up to you to basically make that decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to add another carload of folks here and go someplace else. So and yeah, it's a real shift, and I think why most of us live here, to be frank. But under these particular circumstances, you know, it's something that we want to make sure people are following as much as possible. I don't see any other further hands at this moment in time. I think, you know, if we're only allowed to add 2 for tomorrow, I think the bylaw got some good pressure there. And again, another municipality may ask the same question. So it's really, what would we want the second question to be? And I mean, maybe it is that crowd of 50, or what do you guys, Councillor Hillian? You might want to unmute.
Thanks, Mayor. I would ask a question that combines 2 or 3 of those elements in terms of what Dr. N's plans are for better informing the public on issues of the size of gathering, the availability of testing, and the other one that I can't remember. But I think if they're bundled like that, you can actually put 3 or 4 points into a basic question about the communication that our medical health officer is actually doing to the general public.
Okay, I'm looking to staff. I see some handwriting and some typing.
Yeah,
You've captured, Mr. Allen?
Yeah, maybe, have you captured, you're usually good at capturing things, actually, as I recall.
Okay, thank you. For notes, we have seeking clarification regarding the bylaw enforcement. And also there was discussion about statistics that are specific to communities, available testing, gatherings greater than 50 persons, and how to better inform the public regarding protocols about the gatherings.
and Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, I noticed that we've all received invitations to this meeting.
Sorry, say that again.
I noticed that we've all received an invitation to this conference call with the medical health officer. It was my understanding that we were going to limit the number of people attending, and that perhaps just to send you. Am I mistaken in that regard?
As far as I know, it's open. It doesn't mean you have to attend. It's just that I think that it was the opportunity for all the electeds in the Valley to hear the same answer from Dr. Ents.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Fraiche.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the question about gatherings over 50 is actually about gatherings under 50. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. So it is.
Yeah.
Excellent. Councillor Morin?
Oh, just for clarification, yeah, my understanding was that it was to be open to anyone who wanted to attend, and that's why there was a limit of one question per council, so that would limit, so that we could have large number attending, but not everybody being able to speak necessarily.
Yeah, and then having a backup question in case somebody else asked one.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. So yeah, I think that the time that Dr. Enns has available for these questions, I guess, and her summary is 15 minutes per week. So obviously that's why the idea of limiting questions is part of that discussion.
All right. Thanks for indulging me on that particular question. I think it may be worth noting that, over the past couple of weeks, we've also continued having leaders calls. So between the mayors, the chair of the regional district, the base commander, RCMP, KFN, and that list is slowly growing, potentially to the school district, et cetera. And again, it's just another way for the elected folks and some not so elected, but the leaders to have conversations to make sure that if there's any pressing issues that we can deal with them in a timely manner. And again, I want to thank all of council for meeting the technical challenge today. Every challenge is an opportunity. I think we've done well. I don't think we need to take a vote on this, but I thought I saw Councillor Theos back. And
Adjournment?
There you go. Excellent.
I'll second that.
All right, so that's been first and seconded. I will go through council again. Councillor Theos.
In favor.
Councillor Fraiche. Councillor Fraiche.
In favor.
Excellent. Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor. And if I might just add, Mr. Mayor, thanks very much for your leadership along with our staff in this regard. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. And again, huge kudos to staff who have not only been dealing with the emergency situation as it's presented itself, but also having, because of legislative duties from the province, have also continued to do things in terms of budgeting and those kinds of things. It's immense, and we really appreciate it. And I think you guys saw I did send out a thank you to staff last week. And if you guys ever have the hankering to do something or have an idea, let me know, or do it amongst yourselves. I think any way that we're able to appreciate those in essential services, whether it's in the city, the fire department, doctors who may have signed up for being an essential person, and even those that are in grocery stores and other places, gas stations, which they didn't necessarily know they were an essential employee until this pandemic struck. So I'm talking and I've forgotten where I was. I believe Councillor McCullum, were you in favor? Councillor Cole-Hamilton. Well, I think we have enough.
Still in favor, yeah.
I think we have enough to adjourn.
Yeah.
And a huge thank you to staff for making this meeting possible today. We'll learn from it. We'll get better. Thanks to all of council. I think we handled it pretty good, and hope you all have a great night.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Good night, all. Stay well.
Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.